Good evening. Welcome to another session of Sea of Glass. Tonight, we're going to the book of Exodus, and I want to talk to you about the understanding of love. You see, what happened in this world is that love never been explained out of the scriptures. You know, you have all kinds of prophet out there that prophesize the Bible, but they can't understand the Bible. So what they do, they only stick to the old things like locusts. They don't understand the scriptures. And if they don't understand the scriptures, how can they understand love? Love is something that was created by God, and it has to be consecrated in the understanding of the great power that we were created with. Not in the way that you think love is. Love is a lot different. Love in the Bible is the priest. Levi is the son of Jacob. He had 3 sons. The 3 sons are justice, fairness, and unity. And now we're going to look at Aaron, which comes from the descendant of Levi, and we're going to look at Aaron and his son. When we talk about things in the Bible, you don't talk about, sons and a father. The father is always the existent feelings. The son are the coming feelings. That's the way it is. The present, and if you go to the grandfather, he said the past, the present and the future. Well, you see, the sons of Jacob are meant to be consecrated into this great power to understand love. And Rita's going to read it kind of slow, and she's going to go down, and I'm going to explain every line of you so you can come to understand why you got to understand when God created 6,000 years ago intelligent, he had to go to the animal and use the symptom of the animal in order to describe the power of intelligence. So when you say a bull, it doesn't mean a bull in the pasture. It means your understanding of ignorance. You have to kill it. You have to destroy it. And you have to come to a new understanding. Every time you offer the bull on the altar for something that you want to know. So you come to understand, Lord, I'm ignorant. I don't understand this. Give it to me in the understanding. You put your hand on the head of the bull and you kill him, because it's very important to kill the past so you can understand the present and the future. That's why you don't have the past here, because you're going to kill the bull. Try to understand what we're talking about here. You got to understand that inside of us, you were created as an animal, beginning as an animal. In order for you to receive intelligence, you have to go through the process of the animal to understand. So that's why the Bible always uses lamb, goat, donkey, bull, everything. They use it to describe your feelings. How does your feeling work? And the sons of Jacob are the future of love. Aaron is the present love. Try to understand what we're talking about here, because we're going into a different teaching that you never heard of it before. You'll never be able to understand love unless you understand, the scriptures of it. Try to understand the 12 sons of Jacob. Just put it in your mind for a minute here. Try to understand that Reuben is faith, and Levi is love, and Simeon is understanding. Judah is the way we converse. And all of these things goes down the line. And then you got the 4 sons of the slave girl that comes to understand the power inside of you. And then you got the 2 sons of Rachel, which is Joseph and Benjamin. You got to understand those power. So try to understand that tonight we're going to talk about Levi, love. And we're going to really try to understand, how do you love people in justice, fairness, and unity? Try to unite the world together. Go ahead, Rita.
Okay, for you people following from your Bibles at home, we're in the book of Exodus. It's fairly at the beginning of the book, towards the beginning. Exodus chapter 29, consecration of the priests. This is what you are to do to consecrate them, so they may serve me as priests. Take a young bull and 2 rams without defect.
Okay, now, let's explain the bull now. The bull is your ignorance. You don't know everything. Nobody on earth knows everything. So every time that you learn something, or you want to learn something, you got to offer the bull on the altar. It's not a bull in the pasture there that, you got to understand that the bull is your ignorance. When Jesus was born, there was a knock and the donkey. So that meant there was ignorance and there was stubbornness. And that's what Christianity still is today, ignorance and stupidity. They don't understand the power of the scriptures. And you can say that over and over again, and they're going to say, well, this guy don't know any better than we do. Yes, I do. I do because I've been in this here for most of my life. Try to understand the scriptures in the spiritual term, in the understanding from the animal to the spiritual power of the Almighty God that was planted inside of us 6,000 years ago. God took the animal and said, okay, I'm going to convert you by the feeling of the animal. And you're going to come to understand that the feeling intelligence comes from the feeling of the animal. You got to look at the world and the creation of the world and what God has created and what man has created, and it's divine. It's just as divine as the other one. We live in the 7 days of the creation. I mean, right now we're living in the time that the Lord is resting. He's given up to the people of the world to learn the scriptures. That's what the resting of the Lord. And if you want to learn that, you have to go through the bowl. You have to go through the bowl of your ignorance. You cannot be a Christian no more. You cannot be all this stuff as a Catholic or all of these folly religion of the world, because these people cannot teach you what's in this book. They cannot teach you the understanding of the great power that's inside the book. And that's why I call them the false prophet, because they don't understand what's in here. They probably use the same verse every year to try to explain the New Testament. And they still don't understand the New Testament after all these years, because they take it the way an animal thinks. You have to translate the bull into a spiritual value of divine understanding. Okay, read some more.
And from fine wheat flour without yeast, make bread and cakes mixed with oil, and wafers spread with oil.
Okay, now you got to understand here. I forgot to tell you about the two ramp there. You're going to have 2 ramp, one from the New Testament and one from the Old Testament. You got to understand that you have to kill these animals inside of you in order to understand the power of yourself and the way you were created with the divine knowledge inside yourself. There's a divine knowledge that's here. And you have to listen to this here in order to be wiser and more intelligent. Now you're taking
Fine wheat flour without yeast.
Okay, you got to understand. Read the next before line there.
And from fine wheat flour without yeast, make bread and cakes.
Okay.
Mixed with oil and wafers spread with oil.
Yeah, read all that.
Put them in a basket and present them in it, along with the bull and the 2 rams.
Okay, now, you got to understand the power here. Unliving bread means the scriptures that you cannot understand. God made this on purpose, so you could not understand the Old Testament. And that's why the false prophet never goes in the Old Testament unless they got a line there from Jeremy or from Ezekiel or something like that. And they just use that one line to prove their point. But they don't understand because they're locusts. They live like locusts and they jump from one thing to the next. The great power is to be able to understand these scriptures and try to convert the world into a new understanding of spiritual value. This is a spiritual book, and it will always be a spiritual book. And the time that you're going to try to understand it with your mind, you forget it. Just close the book and don't even think about it. because this is the power of yourself to understand the unliving bread. The way the Bible was written for the purpose to hide the truth, because God said, I can't give these people the truth right away. If I do that, they'll mix everything up, and next thing you know, they'll have all kinds of different things. People are mixed up the way of without understanding the scriptures. When you understand the scriptures, you become a different person. You become a different value. You become the greatest power of all time inside of you, to understand the power of the scriptures inside of you, so you can come to understand this. You know, let's say that, you know, back in the time that they invented the telephone, somebody said they're going to have a phone and you're going to be able to talk to people across the world. Nobody believed it then, because it was not shown. This is the same thing with this here. You know, now you can call a guy in Beijing, you know, you can call a guy right across the world, 6,000 to 7,000 miles away, and talk to him instantly, you know, because you were proving that it was there. It's the same thing with these things here. It's going to take a while for the people of this world to understand the scriptures, but I know right now that it's time to open the book and let the people understand the value of this book, to understand how you treat other people. How do you love other people? This is love now. I'm telling you, the ingredients of love. You got to bring something in order for you to consecrate the power of a human being inside of himself, from an animal to the great power of your divine power to understand. You have a divine power inside yourself. If you listen to yourself, if you listen to what's in here, next thing you know, you begin to believe there's another person inside of you. But if you don't listen to yourself, you think that's the way you feel. No, the feeling that's inside of you is the feelings of the value of these things, where you come to understand the glory that God is inside of us every day of our life. And He converses with us inside of our feelings, so He can come to understand the divine side of it as well as the human side of it, and set it on fire in the misery of not understanding. The great power is here, and you have to use that in order for you to understand the Lord your God. God is inside each one of us. You know, if there's nothing that speaks inside of you, it's because you don't listen to it, and you pay no attention to it. If you pay attention to your feelings, you're going to understand that there's a divine spirit inside of you. And that divine spirit, we're talking about love here. You talk about loving people. You talk about, you know, Aaron and his son. Aaron is the father. The son is the future of it. And that's the way it is in the biblical understanding. You got to try to translate. The unliving bread is a bread that you don't understand. So you don't really understand love at this point. But you got to use unliving bread. You got to, in other words, you got to read these scriptures here and try to make sense out of it, where the Lord tells you what it means. I didn't get this out of myself. I got this out of my feeling inside of myself. And then I begin to understand these scriptures. As much more as I read them, the more I read them, the more I understand them. What I preached about, you know, a few years ago, and what I preach about now is totally different, because I'm growing, you're growing, and everybody in the world that listen to the truth will be growing. The people that will condemn it, the false prophet that thinks that they know it all, they'll never get it. But the real power of a human being is the simplicity of the heart. First of all, you offer the bull. You say, I'm ignorant to the Lord. Admit that you're ignorant. Break that bull's neck. And then the next thing you know, you'll be able to understand what the goat means. The goat means, how do you understand the New Testament? How do you understand the Old Testament? Are you kicking people around with this stuff around you? Are you, worshiping God, on the shrine on the mountain by accusing people of going to hell and everything else? Or are you trying to learn for yourself What is the value of the Scriptures? Not what the Scriptures tells you to hate people because they're not Christian, or to hate Muslim because they're not part of Christianity, or to hate other family because they don't go to church. You see, this is not what it's all about. It's supposed to be inside of you that you're learning to be a better person by the Scriptures. And the Scriptures will only be there. Now you got to remember, the Scriptures have all the power of fire in there. So you have fire in the Scriptures. You have the lies of the world that was introduced in the Scriptures, especially in the Old Testament. All the things that don't make sense is not true. If it don't make sense, if it's written in the Scriptures, it's not true. And you cannot believe it, because then you believe it like a donkey. You believe like, you're stubborn. You believe like a bull. You don't believe like a divine spirit inside yourself that creates the glory of intelligence inside yourself. This is the great power of the magic of intelligence right here. It's a magical power that you have inside yourself, and you lose that magical power to be a better person. Go ahead, read some more, Rita.
Then bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance to the tent of meeting and wash them with water. Take the garments and dress Aaron with the tunic, the robe of the ephod itself, and the breastpiece.
Okay. Wash them with water. Wash them with reality. Come to reality. If you're going to love people, first you got to do is be realistic about it. You see, what happened is, if you believe something stupid, you believe that Jesus makes all these miracles and that he's going to come back and make miracles for you, and then you're going to believe in Jesus because Jesus is the Son of God. You see, all of this stuff was put in there to fool those that fooled themselves. I'm telling you right now, bring the Son to the place of meeting. Bring the two sons and Aaron to the place of meeting. In other words, the power, I'm not saying two sons, the sons here, because there's four of them. And you got to understand the power of the great power inside of yourself to understand justice. Because justice is one of the sons of Levi. If you want to love people, you have to love them with justice. If you want to love people, you have to love them with fairness. In other words, you got to be a fair man at everything you do in life. If you're not fair, you will destroy the power of people around you. But if you're fair and you live with justice and you try to practice justice and fairness, then you will unite the third son of Levi together, and then you'll have the power to understand what love is. See, you never try in love to make a person do what you tell them to do. You always try to teach yourself something new every day of your life. So when you open your mouth, people hears what you say, and they learn by themselves to understand what you said. You don't have to prove it to them. You don't have to make sure that you're a prophet above all prophet, and you're only doing what you're doing here. You try to love people in the process of love, not in the process of being modeled for. I don't want to be modeled by anybody. I want a very simple death. I want a very simple life, because I understand the Scriptures, and now the Scriptures work in the understanding of the reality of love. But you got to understand that love is done by the process of the animal to the divine spirit. And you cannot take that love and twist it inside of yourself and say, boy, I'm going to talk about love. I'm a good Christian. That's not the way love works. Love works by being humble yourself. Humble yourself before people. How many people told me I've been on this air for 20 years. How many people call me a false prophet? How many people tell me they don't talk to me because of decision? Why? Because they don't understand that I came here with love. I came here with love to teach what I have learned from my Father inside of my temple, and I translate it into the understanding of love. See, we're not jumping over lines over here. Why? Why does Christian always get a piece here and a piece there? Because they're locusts. They don't understand the scripture, so they have to understand it, a piece in here, and just take a little piece of the earth and try to make sense out of it. But if you are honest to the truth and you bring people to justice and the understanding of being fair with people, then you will create what they call unity. And then the people will begin to understand. We live at this is the beginning of the seventh day. And the Lord said, I'm going to rest on this day. The resting power. Saying that 6,000 years God decided, okay, now it's time. I'm going to take a special animal and I'm going to choose him from all the other animals, and I'm going to place my spirit inside of them. So he saw that man was walking upright, so he said, I'm going to use man, and I'm going to teach him how to understand the power, the understanding of the great glory of what I have to do to create a kingdom of really intelligent people. So he created it. And for the past 6,000 years, we had wars, destruction of all kinds, holocausts of all kinds. People killed people for the purpose of gaining, power and glory against everybody else. And they never really understood the purpose of this world and why did God make this world the way it is. See, they don't. You know why? Because they can't understand the glory of intelligence. They can't understand the power that a person has inside of himself to be somebody. And when you look at somebody, if you do wrong to others and you did not learn the book, you're responsible, because you should learn the book of life. Why? The purpose of life, to understand the glory of life. Read some more, Rita.
I'll repeat just one line.
Okay.
Take the garments and dress Aaron with the tunic, the robe of the ephod, and the ephod itself, and the breastpiece. Fasten the ephod on him by its skillfully woven waistband.
Okay, now, put this robe on you. It's not a robe like, person. This is not what it's all about. This is a robe of understanding. Let's say you sit at a table and there's 6 people around the table, and try to understand what people are saying. Try to understand what we are one another. If you have a robe that looks good to these people and you understand great things, people will listen to great things, something they never heard of. That's why I'm trying to tell you, love is something that was never heard on earth. You know why people don't love each other? Because it's not been explained by the human race. The false prophet of Christianity and the Catholic Church and the Muslims and the Mormon and all these religions that don't mean nothing, they all think they have it. And they all think that you should go to their church in order to learn from them, but they can't teach you that because they never understood what love was all about. I've got to tell you now, love is the understanding of a sacrifice that's inside you, of what you do for others, not by means of being one person that looks up to everybody and looks like he's something special around people. Oh, what a good priest he was. What a good preacher he was. Those are not the things you need. You need to do things that nobody knows about. And the more you do it, and if you would tell somebody, he would say, oh my God, don't do that. If you try to help a person that needs to be helped, and you tell your friend or your family, oh, they're going to tell you, I wouldn't do that for her. I wouldn't do that for nobody. You see, trying to do it where nobody agrees with it, and you agree with it, because love is special. It's something that unites people together, and you have to do it in justice. And you have to be fair with people in order to accomplish what they call the unity of humanity. And if you do it, what you do it in your life, you will unite the great power of yourself in the glory of human understanding, where people will love in the understanding of the truth. You don't have to be modern for that. You don't have to be above everybody else. You don't have to have the greatest speech of all to understand that. You have to have the knowledge inside of you that comes from the ingredients of love. And the ingredients of love tells you what to do to be a loving person. If you want to go, if you want to help people, if you want to do something, don't do it when everybody sees you. You know, go to the jail system, pick a name that nobody cares about, and give him a little bit of money. You know, and don't tell nobody about it. That's what it is to be able to love people. You have to love those that have been deserted. You have to love those that don't have the history of a good future for them. So you have to love them in the way of love that is written in the ingredients of love. Go on, read some more, Rita.
Put the turban on his head and attach the sacred diadem to the turban. Take the anointing oil and anoint him by pouring it on his head. Bring his sons and dress them in tunics and put headbands on them. Then tie sashes on Aaron and his sons. The priesthood is theirs by a lasting ordinance. In this way you shall ordain Aaron and his sons.
You see how you ordain yourself to love? You give up what you think love was and do it unthinkable. Do the unthinkable. Do what you could not explain to a person of the earth what you're doing. Do it where you look like a stupid person, but you go to the far end of the understanding of love and bring love to the power of yourself. You got to understand that this is the power that you have within yourself to glorify the truth. Above all things in life, the understanding of justice. What is justice? Justice is not just the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. there. No, justice is within you when you read the Lord inside of you. If you read these things inside of you, you begin to understand the justice that the Lord has made. It's not a word, it's a feeling that you have inside of you that create a word for it. But it's a feeling first before it becomes a word. And the same thing with fairness. What is fairness? Fairness is not a word, but it's a feeling that you're inside of it. You see that justice was not lived there, and you make justice happen because your presence needs to be able to understand the power of love itself. So you can come to understand that there's a glory in intelligence that is much higher than what people consecrate themselves. To consecrate the son of Aaron is to really consecrate your feeling inside yourself, the priesthood that's inside of you. They use priests here in the Catholic Church, and they use priests and all that, but that's not what priests are. You know, you look at all the priests of the Catholic Church, that's not priests. Somebody ordained them in the way of stupidity and ignorance. What you ordain as priests in the consecration of love is the understanding that you went behind the power that was meant to be because you did not understand the old love. It was not enough. Now you go to the power of those that were forgotten, those that screwed up all their life. Try to understand that the power of these people is in your hand. And you got to go to the understanding of it to make sure that they are the one that they needs to be loved. If you love people that everybody loves, you love no one. But if you love people that no one's loved, then there's a great value in there. That's where the value of love is. The value is not loving just your friends over there and say, oh, I got good friends and I love them deeply. That's not what love is. Love is to go at the bottom and trying to bring the bottom up in the understanding of fairness and justice. And then unite them to love itself with you and them in the understanding. You know, you see people that say, well, I would not eat with these people. I don't care. They're stupid. They're ignorant. You know, they use drugs. They use this. You can eat with anybody so long as you remain inside yourself. The Spirit of the Lord is still living here. It will tell you what to do at the exact time. Okay, now you have the power that the Son is your future now. Go ahead.
Well, we said, bring his sons and dress them in tunics. And, yeah, okay.
Okay, bring his son and dress them in tunic. In other words, bring the future. What you did in the past does not count no more. Just the future counts. So the sons are important. Understand what I mean? What you did cannot be changed. But what you're going to do can be changed. And that's what it's all about. You dress them in the future of something new, you know.
Bring the bull to the front of the tent of meeting, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on its head.
Okay, let me explain that line. Bring the bull to the front. Put your hand on him. In other words, put your hand on your head and say to yourself, boy, have I ever been wrong? You know, what made me so wrong? Because I was living like an animal. I never raised above the understanding of an animal to live in one great power of myself, to understand the glory of this intelligence that comes inside of me. So what I did in the past don't count. What you're doing in the future and you decide to do in the future is the greatest gift of all. The sons of Aaron are more important than Aaron because they're the future. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, regarding the bull, slaughter it in the Lord's presence at the entrance to the tent of meeting. Take some of the bull's blood and put it on the horns of the altar with your finger, and pour out the rest of it at the base of the altar.
Okay, let me explain that. That's very important to understand that.
Yeah.
Take the bull now, yourself, and you have to do it in front of the Lord. Now, what is in front of the Lord now? You don't have to do it in front of people, but you can admit to the Lord, I've been so stupid, Lord. You know, I've been so stupid because I could not understand exactly what you were talking about. So now that you come to me and you explain to you in your sanctuary the power of what the Lord is inside of me, then you come. You see, God is not this big thing that is above everything. He is above, but that's not what it is. God wants to be at the level of humanity and the understanding. So he's going to give you an idea because you are part of humanity. And your humanity is equal to all others. So you have to be inside yourself a glory of this intelligence that tells you that you are the part of the understanding of the greatest gift of life. To be able to understand the Lord is to be able to understand yourself in that same unity with them. What is God? God is the glory of this great power that he is inside of us. And if you try to understand without the Lord, you can't understand it. Because you have to have this feeling inside yourself that tells you of the value of all intelligence and the great value of justice and the greatest value of being fair with others. So you can unify people together in the understanding of the great power of yourself. Go ahead.
Then take all the fat around the inner parts, the covering of the liver, and both kidneys with the fat on them, and burn them on the altar.
Okay, I want to explain that. The three things inside of it. See, you're an animal, but you don't use your animal to do that. what you do here, take the kidney of the bull. Kidney is what separates what is good for your body and what is bad for your body. And the same thing with the kidney. The kidney separates what is good for your body because you need liquid to make new blood and you make new understanding.
The liver? The liver.
The liver is what separates the food that you eat, okay? So you take those two things.
And the fat.
And the fat. In other words, what makes you comfortable in life? What makes you live better than everybody else? Just offer it to the Lord. Simple. Because when you're fat, you're living too good for yourself. So you got to offer that to the Lord in the understanding of this great power. You see why people cannot understand the scriptures? You know why? Because they don't understand that we are an animal. We are an animal that God has placed inside of us the greatest glory of the great power that He is, intelligent. And if you're going to come to receive this intelligence of the value of heaven, you have to come and understand what is. You know, you got to burn what's no good about you. You got to destroy it. You got to change it into a new way of understanding. Then God tells you, you did it. You did it for the purpose of it. Go ahead, Rita, read some more.
But burn the bull's flesh and its hide and its offal outside the camp. It is a sin offering.
What's a sin now? This is so important. That's the key word here. Sin is the key word. It's a sin offering. Burn your stupidity because what you don't understand is not true. That's a sin. When you believe something that's not true, that's a sin. It's so powerful to be able to understand sin here. Because sin tells you to burn that. It has no value. To go to church every week has no value. That's a sin. To listen to another person that don't understand any better than you, it's a sin. You have to burn those things. Get rid of them. That's a fat that you think, oh, I go there. It's so nice. They sing and they in church and they make me feel so good. That's your fat. The fat of it. Burn it. Trying to understand that life on earth is for the purpose of bringing the world to a better place. You know, and then if everybody in this whole world began to understand the scriptures and began to understand, like I was telling you about the telephone, 150 years ago, nobody understood it. And if you told people about it, they said you were nuts. And if you tell somebody, 200 years ago that they're going to build this big football and put wings on it, and you're going to get there, and they're going to shoot you across the ocean to the other side of the ocean in 6-7 hours, you're going to say, this guy is nuts. He's nuts. Well, I'm going to tell you, the future will come when people will begin to understand these scriptures because somebody brought him to the understanding of the soul. And when you begin to understand it in the center of the soul, it's possible to have a better world. It's possible to do a better world of what we have now because we're preaching from the understanding of the understanding. We're going to the deepest part of the scriptures to understand what it's all about, the consecration of the priest, the consecration of love. And once people begin to love each other, in the future, when the kingdom of God comes after 1,000 years, it's going to come. Believe me, it's going to come. And people will be so educated with the scriptures. People will be able to understand all these scriptures because God made it possible for a human being to understand it. And God makes it possible. If He made Adam and Eve 6,000 years ago, why can't He make a person that understands the glory of intelligence, the great power to be able to understand that God is a divine creature, but not a divine creature in all the magic of the world. God is a magical man, a magical power, but not in the way we think. He's magical in the blessed of the intelligence of the power that he is. What you are what you think and feel inside yourself. But what made that is the power to understand. You see, what's going to happen in a few hundred years from religion is going to die out. They have to die out because they've been misleading the world for so long that people can never learn the scriptures because they made a seal. They sealed the Bible from the understanding of the people that would understand them. And they tell you, don't go there, you can't go there. I remember when I was a kid, oh no, don't try to understand that. Only a man that knows theology can explain that. And then we never find such a man because they cannot understand the scriptures. All the theology of the Catholic Church, all the theology of Christianity cannot understand because they don't preach here. They can't go there. You know why? Because they haven't got the understanding and the guts to understand it. You have to take what was done in stupidity and transfer it into intelligence. Go ahead, read some more, Rita.
Take one of the rams, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on its head. Slaughter it and take the blood and sprinkle it against the altar on all sides. Cut the ram into pieces and wash the inner parts and the legs, putting them with the head and the other pieces. Then burn the entire ram on the altar. It is a burnt offering to the Lord, a pleasing aroma, an offering made to the Lord by fire.
I love to hear that, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. In other words, take the teaching of the New Testament that belongs to the world. All of these teaching are ram. They kick people out of heaven. They do that, and if you say something intelligent, they tell you, no, only listen to the priest and only listen. But I tell you, what do you do when you kill those ram? You kill those ram because you're tired of being told that you cannot think for yourself. You're tired of being told that you have to listen to some false prophet that don't understand the scriptures. You're tired, so you got to take the New Testament and you got to understand it for yourself, and the Lord will tell you what it means. You take the Old Testament and you got to understand it for yourself, and next thing you know, you begin to have a new feeling, a new teaching coming in, and the understanding of yourself in the great glory of human intelligence. And that's the way it works. And when feelings are coming in the value of the greatest glory of intelligence, you have to come to understand the power that's within you. You cannot listen to nobody else about the scriptures. You have to listen to yourself. Read some more, Rita.
Take the other ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on its head. Slaughter it. Take some of its blood and put it on the lobes of the right ears of Aaron and his sons, on the thumbs of their right hands, and on the big toes of their right feet.
Oh boy, that is so beautiful. Try to understand the glory here. The other ram is the Old Testament. Try to understand it. Put it on the lobe of your ear. Put it, on the big toes of your foot where you're walking around.
On the thumbs.
Put it on the thumb of your right hand. In other words, do the things that's right, and do the things and take the blood from what happened in here. In other words, you're taking these scriptures, the understanding of these scriptures, the blood itself, and you translate them into what makes sense inside of you, and then you will walk with clean feet. You will work with clean hand, and you will work with clean ears, and your eyes will be able to see different in the understanding, because you put the understanding in the globe of your ear. You try to hear what makes sense, and you try to destroy what doesn't make sense. That's what it is when you kill something, you destroy it. Now take the Old Testament and the New Testament in the new version of human understanding that's never been heard before. And next thing you know, you're going to learn. You're going to learn something in this world that you cannot learn anywhere else. You're going to learn that the power of the Spirit that's inside of you has the power to understand for himself. You see, I looked at myself, many years ago, and I used to say to myself, geez, I'm not educated. I came to Connecticut to work here, and I tried to make a little bit of money, and then tried to get into a little business where I could make some money. The Lord was kind to me, and I did pretty good. But I always thought that, I didn't go to school long enough. But this was what the Lord asked me to do. Learn for myself. I learned business for myself. I learned to do carpentry for myself. I learned to do all the things that I can do for myself. And when I did that, I learned it in the understanding that I was good enough to learn it. I tell you, each one of you has the same power I have, and the same glory that I have. You can learn these scriptures so beautiful and so powerful inside of you that you will be able to understand. You'll be able to walk with the blood on the big toes, with, take the thumb of the right hand and understand the right side of it, and understand and hear the right side of things when you hear them. This is what it's all about. It's to be able to understand what has been there forever. They say that, electricity's been there for 10,000 years. Nobody never knew about it until they start using it in the 19th century. But before that, it was around. It's just that it was not discovered yet. It was always there. It's the same thing with everything else. The telephone could have been invented, 2,000, 3,000 years ago if somebody knew what he was doing. See, this is what happened. You can't trust in everybody else to learn something. You have to learn it for yourself. And you take the people like Alexander Bell that learned to understand. He could see it, and he could understand it, and he could feel it, but he couldn't prove it. And then he had to go through, Mark Twain and all that to get it, and they didn't want to hear nothing from him. But then, look at it today. The greatest power of all is to talk all over the world, and it's all done on transmitter today. It's not done by wire anymore. Everything they invented was purified and dignified into something new all the time. But that's the way it is in life. You're coming to understand something that nobody never understood, and you bring it. So what's going to happen in the future? You're going to have many people like you that's going to learn from nothing and become great science and great glory of human understanding. You have to trust in yourself. You have to know that the Lord is here. He put His Spirit inside of you so you can learn anything that you want to learn. Trust in the Lord your God. This is how you're going to cross over to the other side of the understanding of life on earth. Okay, Rita?
Then sprinkle blood against the altar on all sides, and take some of the blood on the altar and some of the anointing oil, and sprinkle it on Aaron and his garments, and on his sons and their garments. Then he and his sons and their garments will be consecrated.
You see how you consecrate the son of your future, the great power of your understanding of the future? You begin to have faith in yourself. And you take the blood and you throw it around the altar. That's your understanding now. Because blood means understanding. They tell you, eat my bread and drink my blood. This is a common sense of intelligence that tells you that you have. And you sprinkle it all around your inside. And the next thing you know, you'll understand things that you never understood before. You see, what happened is people were kind of desecrated. They were not bringing it. They desecrated. And they tell them, you're stupid, you're ignorant, you can't learn nothing. You see, that's the way to destroy this human soul. But the understanding, you take a person that thinks that he's not really smart, he can believe that these are the people that learn the greatest thing in life, the greatest power to understand. And, you know, as you read the understanding of Alexander Bell, or, you know, I mean, to be able to understand how electricity work, you know, our Franklin understood that electricity could exist, and then it was invented by the people that came after him. You know, it was not just what this man did. He just put a start on it. And next thing you know, you begin to understand the way he does. And next thing you know, you purify it and you bring it up. It used to be a telephone with a little ring on it. And then it was just between house of people. And then it became from one city to the other. Then it expanded from city to city, state to state, until it came to be known as one of the greatest inventions of our life. The telephone, television, the same thing. Everything has a power inside of us to be developed. And it's not the people that think that are smartest that invent it. It's the people that think nothing of themselves. Those are the people that comes and bring the greatest gift to mankind. The understanding of the greatest power of all. It's to be able to understand that inside of us, there's a glory of intelligence that's hiding there, and nobody wants to touch it because they don't think it's a value. I tell you, the value is inside the person that thinks for himself. And it's always going to be the people. You can't prove it to everybody else. You don't have to prove it to everybody else. You know, it's not the point. The point is you bring it up and you let it live between people. And next thing you know, you become a person of value because you did what you were supposed to do. You didn't listen to the ignorant people that tells you were stupid. You didn't listen to nobody. You listened to your feelings. Let the Lord speak to you and listen to what he's saying to you. And there may be more in all that there is in the feelings of your understanding. It's inside your temple. And see, that's what happened. The blood is the understanding. And the more you understand in the blood, the more it becomes real in glory and in the feelings of everything that we have inside of ourselves. Read some more, Rita. So this is the most powerful thing on earth. You know.
Take from this ram the fat tail, the fat around the inner parts, the covering of the liver, both kidneys with the fat on them, and the right thigh. This is the ram for the ordination.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me explain the fat here. So important to understand the fat. Everything that people tell you that you cannot do. Every time somebody destroys your understanding. Me, I get mad because I say, you know, you're trying to hurt me. You know, you're trying to take things away from me that I have. And what happened is, you're looking at yourself, and the glory of intelligence. Ooh, you know, I tell you that, you know, I'm going to, the next time we're coming, we're taking this teaching here a little further because this is so important that you understand the consecration of the priests. This is the most powerful thing on earth, to know how to love people in the way of loving. You see, the people that understand, they always say the dumb thing to make you stop. And you have to keep going in the great power of yourself to understand what intelligence is and what it means for the world to go to the next cycle of the understanding of life. It's nice that we have telephone to talk. We all have telephone on us. We all have telephone, and our cars are made, and you're going to see the greatest thing of all coming up in the understanding of the reality of everything.